Okay. So welcome sorry. Welcome everyone to the Grammar Literacy event. So in this interview, we talk about how to make the most of our children's languages so they learn better. And although it's a session that's mostly for teachers, because we talk about a school environment, it's definitely an interview that's going to be insightful for parents as well to know what they can do as well at home to help their children. We are with Zack Ekert, and I met Zack about a year and a half ago at a conference where he explained something that I found really inspiring. So Zack is the head of multilingualism at the International School of London. And in his presentation at the conference, he explained how the curriculum had been reorganized so that the students study the same thing in English, which is the school the language of instruction, their home language, and the foreign language they are studying. So we're going to see more in details how this works, and of course, feel free to ask any question during this event, the interview. So I'm just checking my phone. Okay, I think it's fine. And so welcome, Zach. It's a great honor to have you with us today and to talk about the incredible work you do at the International School of London.
No, thank you very much, Yoshito, for having me. It's really nice to be part of your event and to have the chance to really demonstrate to everyone what we do here at ISL. It is very much a special community. As you know, we're based in West London, near Chiswick, near Ealing, and I just can't wait to tell you what we've been up to. And, you know, a lot of things have evolved since that initial conference. So we've been working on refining the program. Some things have worked, some things haven't. And, you know, this is maybe our second or third reiteration of trying to find ways of refining the program. So loads of new stuff to tell you about.
Yeah, I guess that's a good learning for you, but also for us as well to see what works and what doesn't and why. So I'm very looking forward to it too. Before we start, can you give us a bit more context about your school, so especially about the kind of students who attend your school?
Yeah, so maybe if I just share my slides here, just to...
Yeah, I allowed sharing, so it should be fine.
It should work for you. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's what I can see, yeah.
Okay, so here's our wonderful school, where we're based on three sites. So of course we've got the main site, which you've attended on a few occasions, and we've got a couple of other sites in proximity. But here you've got the statistics really of the profile of our students and also our staff. So the issue is the moment we make these statistics, they change. So they're never 100% up to date, just because we have rolling admissions. Students come and students go, and that number can always go up, you know, a little bit. But, you know, this is our sort of stable number.
Yeah.
So over 50 nationalities. We offer 24 languages as part of our program. And I'll go into more detail about the different types of language courses that we have. There's about 40 nationalities amongst our staff. So really, the staff represent the students and the students represent the staff. You know, there's a really beautiful mixture of people's backgrounds and nationalities and languages. So it really is truly an international school. That's what makes it special. Like, we own that name. We don't really have any dominating nationality, and that's what makes it really special. There really is that feeling of equality, of understanding, of mutual understanding, really. And our classes tend to be small, you know, 22 really is the maximum, but we have plenty of classes which are below 5. We have a few one-to-ones. It just depends. It depends on the languages in particular. Those classes will be smaller. With regards to students' languages, so about it, again, it changes, but I'd say around 35% of students arrive with little to no English, and then we have a definition for that. So that's basically the European framework, A1 or A2, A0, of course, no English, and then you've got the different equivalents there. And then I would say around 65% of students speak 2 languages or even more, fluently or near fluently. So we have to be quite specific in how we define fluency or near fluency. So we just use the various frameworks available to us.
Okay.
And of course, we're an IB school, so we use the IB terminology within. So the thing that's really unique about us is that we do the IB from primary all the way to the top, so all the way to the diploma, which is the equivalent of A level.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. And so in terms of, so you have a wide variety of nationalities and languages. Um, when a family decides to send their children to your school, what's the promise that your school makes to them? So what can they expect from your school?
That really is a really good question, Yoshita, because actually when I first joined the school, this is now I'm in my third year. The first thing I wanted is to actually have total clarity over that question that you've put. So we have put that into writing. So we actually have this on our website, which is this, and
Okay.
we're very happy with this final solution here. So the promise that I give to the families joining our school is that wherever you come from, no matter your ability, no matter your level, no matter your history, we will give you a tailored linguistic provision. So if you speak Thai as your first language, if you want us to, we will source you a teacher, a professional language and literature teacher of that language. And that's one element. But of course, we give very detailed provision within English. And then many children also learn a third language. So,
Okay.
we'll make sure that we listen to everyone's repertoire and we give them the right offer.
Okay. And I think that's one of the things, the two things that really I found inspiring during when I met you, is that you provide a lesson in the students' home languages, but every single home language. And so it's really providing to every single student and whatever their language is, their background. So first, yeah, I wanted to dive in a bit into this before we go on to the other bigger topic I wanted to talk about. But so how many lessons do they have each week? And what do they learn in these languages?
Right. So it depends on the age. So
Yeah, yeah.
the very youngest learners, they start off with a taster because we don't want to overwhelm them when they've come to a new country. So learners who are 4 years of age will receive about 40 minutes. But then straight after that, we increase that to 2 hours and 40. So for most of
Okay,
the primary schooling, they'll receive 2 hours and 40 minutes across the week of their home language.
okay,
Um, of course, that doesn't include English. The English provision in primary is, of course, it's a wraparound. So their entire exposure is to English outside of those 2 hours and 40 minutes. In the secondary, they will receive 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it's a similar amount of time, just a little bit less because, of course, we've got a lot of subjects that we need to fit in. And it's always a little bit of a game to making sure that there's parity across all of the different requirements of the middle years program that we
okay,
offer. But we're still quite happy with that amount of provision. And then up in the diploma, which is our version of A level, it depends on how much intensity you want to give to that subject. So up in diploma, students have to choose 3 subjects which they take at a higher level and 3 which they take at a standard level. And that's really a discussion that they have with their family and with the coordinator up there. But it can be up to 3 hours, 3 hours 40, depending on the intensity that they want to take. So what do we teach there? You name it, we teach it, really.
okay,
So these are fully academic, integral parts of our offer. So
okay,
we wouldn't want our courses to be misunderstood as a sort of bolt-on or an add-on that's done, for example, after school. That's definitely not what we do. Our curriculum is, our language lessons are 100% within a curriculum. So
okay,
really, it's the simplest way to explain it is a language and literature course. So you'll, of course, study all of the aspects of language and literature of that language. That includes spelling and grammar. For, in particular, the younger years, there will be a bigger focus on culture and history as well,
Yeah.
because we integrate that quite closely with whatever primary do. With the
Okay.
older learners, we're looking at, of course, famous authors, famous novels, any famous literature that links to that country, but we take it a little bit further because, of course, we're in an international school. So there are works in translation. So, for example,
Mm.
if you are studying Dutch as your home language, you might be exposed to Spanish literature, which is in translation into Dutch. And you can have
Okay.
really any sort of combination. It's down to the teacher as a professional to choose what is appropriate to the students in front of him or her. And of course, the students have a lot of agency and involvement in well, creating that course, deciding what literature is studied.
Okay. And so could I ask you to unshare the screen so we can see us a bit better? And we have also a question on a comment, I guess, from Shahana, which ties very nicely with the next question I wanted to ask you. But she says the curriculum design around the language of instruction and incorporating mother tongues sound very interesting, and I would love to know more about this. So, which leads me to my question: how do you organize everything? But also maybe to start with, where did this idea come from that you wanted to use older languages to consolidate the learning?
Well, it actually came from one of my first roles when I joined the school just over 2 years ago was to do an audit. And really, I all I did for the first 3 months was I spoke to people, parents, teachers, students, to see what was working well, what maybe wasn't working well, and then working on from there. So really, the thing that was noticeable was because we offered such a huge amount of courses. So we offer 24 languages, but if you
Yeah.
break it down into courses, it's actually about 50 different courses, because of course, English has multiple different types of course, and then the primary course is totally separate to the middle years course and so on. So
Okay.
we have such a large offer that it became quite a difficult puzzle to piece together. And because we're a very creative school, sometimes that creativity would take different classes in different directions. That really created a sort of structural issue, which was that quite often the language A teachers. So when we say home languages, we have loads of terms for what that means. So you can have home language, language A, language and literature. Um,
Okay.
for simplicity, we just call it language A, which is the first language of instruction, as opposed to language B, which is your modern foreign language.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, of course, we've got ELL in that combination. So we had um, three amazing departments that were not really communicating with one another. So
Okay.
the experience that a student might have learning Spanish, literature, language A, might be very different to their experience of learning English literature, also language A,
Ah,
which would then be very inconsistent with the experience of what they were learning in language acquisition. Now, there's the word consistency, what does that mean? We had to really work out what was most useful for the child. Our priority was to make sure that we have very high world standard quality courses, which lead to very fast progression, which, we've got plenty of students who are multilingual, bilingual, trilingual, and those skills were not being transferred. And that was really the lost opportunity. So we have been working over the past few years in really resolving that.
okay.
And it is very technical. So in short, what we do is we want our English team, because everybody has to learn English in our school. It's an obligation, whether it is as your first language or your second language, as your language A or your language B. So there has to be a connection between our language A team, our English team, and our language A team, the non-English. So what students might learn in English, they might learn specific concepts that they won't see in their home language until one term later.
Okay.
Or it can be the reverse process, where they will explore something in their home language, which they will then see in English. And that is either English A, if they're fluent in it as well, or in language B, if they're not. Designing those modules was extremely complicated because we wanted there to be a transfer of skill, but we didn't want the student to feel it was a repetition, because we want
Yeah.
each course to feel independent, and we don't want our plans to be necessarily too obviously evident to the student. We want them to realize themselves, okay, I've learned this skill, now I can naturally transfer it to this new area of study. So that has been the work of our language team, and they have created a really beautiful final product, a very comprehensive, very technical set of schemes of work and curriculum maps, which we're launching literally as of this month.
Ah, okay. Thank you. I'm quite curious to know, to get some concrete examples. But before that, before you mentioned that there were some challenges and sometimes things work, some other times it didn't work. Could you tell us, maybe talk to us about this gap between the theory, so the plan you had, and what happened in reality?
Oh, well, you know what? It's the one thing I would say is what I would say is the challenge was worth it. And that was the first hurdle we had to get across, is to explain to everybody involved, all of the stakeholders. So because our students are also involved in this process through the
Yeah,
various student leadership, so students, parents, teachers, leadership, we had to really come to a collective understanding of what these hurdles were.
yeah,
So when it was generally understood that we needed to break out of these silos, the next question was, well, why are we even breaking out of the silos? Because actually the programs have run quite successfully for a long time. Why change? Why are you asking for this change? And the simple answer is, well, I think you probably already know, it's translanguaging. That's really what it is. It's using your skill set of one language to another. And, you know, getting that point across was also very technical. The other difficulties we had were abilities, group sizes, um, fluency levels. So, of course, our children come from all over the world. And just because they speak a language doesn't mean that they speak it to the same level, or that they have
yeah,
had the same schooling previously, or they have the same confidence. So it's managing that aspect within an academic literature course.
yeah.
Perceptions were also um, a bit of a challenge. So,
Perception. What?
so perceptions from, it depends who you ask, but the perception of the value of English.
Ah, I see. Yeah,
Well, that's sort of the elephant in the room. And look, for us as an IB school, it's very clear. Every language is of equal value. There is no language which is more important than the other.
yeah.
And that is very clear within the framework. And that's how being an IB school has really helped us,
Mm,
because there's an expectation, a necessity that every student learns in their best language. And for many of our students, it is not English.
mm,
But of course, at the same time, we're based in London. English is the language of instruction of the school. So we had to work out how to place English. And really, for us now, English sits quite successfully within. So we had three departments previously. We had language A, language B, and we had English on its own, English B on its own. It's now moved into the separate areas. So language A incorporates English if it's your first language or you're nearly fluent. The language B department also incorporates English if you are not fluent in it, and you'll be learning
yeah.
it in acquisition as an English MFL or an EAL, so to speak, though we
Okay.
don't use that terminology. Amongst parents, we've brought our son or daughter to the UK. We want them to learn English. English is the most important language for us at the moment. That might not be said, but it might be kind of understood. That's the expectation. But we have to really, this is part of our onboarding process. We tell parents that you cannot forget who you are. You cannot forget your home language because, of course, as you know, Yoshida, from everyone you've spoken to today and will speak to tomorrow and the day after, everyone will say the same thing, that if you lose focus of your home language, it's not necessarily retrievable after that point.
Ah,
It's explaining that to parents that every language is of equal value, even if English is our language of instruction.
yeah,
So that was a big challenge to navigate. And then another thing is national curricula. So a family coming from Argentina and a family coming from Spain and a family coming from Mexico, even though they all speak Spanish, they will have different curriculum backgrounds and
yeah.
expectations. So the way we resolved that was very simple. We looked at all of them and then we went for the highest. And then a little bit more. If we're offering a world-class service, we have to really aim for the top, not for an average. So that's the way we have proceeded in whenever there's been any sort of ambiguity, we've gone for the top.
Okay, okay. Thank you. We have a question from Franklin about like when students have more than like one home language, etc. But I guess I'm going to read the question just after this one that I would like to ask you. So can you give us a concrete example of a topic that students learn and how it is covered in various languages? And then I guess we can talk about when students have more than one home language.
Yes, so let me show you. It's best if I show you an example on the slides, and
Yeah,
that way everyone has clarity. Because otherwise, if I'm
yeah,
talking, it can all easily get lost, can't it, in the conversation? And I'll go
yeah.
off on some point as well. Here's an example for grade 8. Hopefully, you
Okay,
can see it here. So this isn't the whole curriculum map. It is just a little glimpse, really, to show you how this works in practice. So for a year 9 student, so we use the international numbering system, so they would be in grade 8. Here you
yeah,
have two different units. One unit is from English, and the other unit we call non-English, because, of course, each home language teacher will take our unit design and they will customize it to their own language. So you'll
okay,
notice that the column in blue is a little bit more generic because only the Dutch specialist or the Japanese specialist or the Mandarin specialist can adapt it to their
yeah,
children, their culture, and so on. But you can see I've given you an example from Unit 1 and Unit 2. That's because what happens in Unit 1 in English then feeds through later on down the line into the other subject. So we have 3 units. They are large units, 1 per term.
okay,
For example, and so this is assuming that this student is in both language A's. So they do English as a language A, and they'll do whatever it might be, Japanese as a language A. So they'll be in both. So
okay,
in Autumn 1, in English, they will be exposed to these themes and these contexts. And here we've got the idea of belonging and coming of age in conflict. And they're looking at a beautiful set of literature here, Noughts and Crosses. I'm sure. Have you heard of it before?
no,
So it's a bit of a dystopian novel.
ah,
Uh,
okay,
um, where I don't want to tell you too much, but basically these characters find love and friendship against all odds. Really, that's a sort of a thing
okay,
we're looking at. And we have a umbrella. This is called our umbrella book or our umbrella set of literature, whatever it might be. That kind
mhm,
of encompasses that everything goes beneath it. So that's
yeah,
the main text or main play, whatever it might be, that is explored. And then we have different types of fiction or non-fiction that complements the thematics of whatever that umbrella literature is.
yeah,
And then through that, they explore, the usual stuff that you would expect to see, whether it's petal or peel, whether they're looking at writing a diary or monologues or whatever. And then we have two summative assessments. So one is analysis of the literature, and the other one is some sort of creative writing. So here, in this example, they will be doing a monologue and there might be a performance. So the things that they learn in English then transfer, not directly, because we don't want
Yeah.
it to repeat. That would be, I think, the worst thing we could do, is to
Yeah.
have a direct repeat of the module, of the unit, just in a different language. So it's a sort of half or three-quarters transfer.
Yeah. So he's like complementing each other.
Yes. So you can see the summative, so the assessment, the structure is the same, and there are heavy links contextually. So, for example, in the non-English, this is all, we've got the idea of rebellion and coming of age, which we
Yeah.
have in the first theme, but it's from a different angle. So this is looking at history.
Yeah.
But in English, it's future focused, that sort of dystopia and how to prevent these things from
Ah,
happening.
yeah.
Whereas in the non-English, we're looking at the past. So that was really beautifully designed. This wasn't designed by me. I cannot claim this as me at all. This is my team, who are extremely creative, and they've worked very hard together to make this happen. The other thing that you'll see in non-English is that there's also this novel in translation, or any text in translation.
Ah, yeah.
That gives it that internationalism that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay. What does it mean, novel in translation?
So that simply means if you are learning Korean, then the second book that you're reading is written in Korean, but it wasn't originally written in Korean. It was
Ah,
translated
I
across
see. Yeah.
from some other culture.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is our little way of feeding into translanguaging as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, and you will know when you're reading a translated text, some things just don't translate.
Yeah.
And that's the
It's,
very important part of that exploration, is understanding something isn't quite right here. What was it in the original language? Does it work in this language? Why? Why not? So it's the exploration and the discovery of concepts that don't exist in the language that you're studying. And that's the really exciting thing about this.
yeah. That's really interesting. Mm.
And also, so in the diploma, in the A levels, our version
Yeah.
of the A levels, which is the diploma program, a novel in translation is an expectation. It must happen. It's expected
Ah,
within. So
okay.
again, this is what's amazing about the IB, is that it builds in these expectations that otherwise you maybe wouldn't even think of doing as a curriculum designer or as a teacher.
Yeah. Ah, okay. Thank you very much. So I'll come to Franklin's question. So he said, have you experienced any negative effects from being raised with three mother languages instead of two? Some recommendations for uh, learn, yeah, I guess learning the three at the same time.
So
So I'm guessing, so instead of having, for example, just English and Korean, for example, this student has a third language, but because uh, you offer lessons in the home language, but it's one of the home languages, so one language would be left out. Is there anything you recommend to keep up the learning of the or development of this third language?
yes, so actually, in fact, we do have flexibility within our school to offer two home languages. So for families who wish to explore, however, whatever their repertoire is in full, we do offer it outside of the timetable. That's the only way we can really accommodate it, but it's
Yeah,
definitely available. Um, but and also another way that sometimes we resolve this is, we have to have a complex conversation with the family. That's it. It really stems from the family. Each family is different, and it isn't a one size fits all. It is really a bespoke solution to everyone. So some families prefer to start with one language when the child is younger and then switch.
ah,
Um,
okay.
that has its benefits, it has its disadvantages, but it's really down to the family. Only they can decide, and we guide them. We explain to them what the risk is.
Yeah,
And, in general, if the language is less developed, then it's at higher risk of loss. So we encourage more time on one over the other. Um, Sometimes we don't have to do that at all because the family is willing to entirely have the additional language outside of class. And some families prefer to explore all of their home languages at home, and we will advise them on what to do, what not to do. Because and this is really where that's where we have collaborated, Yoshito, is of course in you actually bringing that knowledge across to parents as you have done, and we run those sorts of programs as well. It's our kind of umbrella provision.
yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah.
Does that fully
So
answer the question? Or
yeah, I think yes. Yeah. So one thing that's really admirable from your school is that you really try to adapt to the needs of each family, and it's not just everyone that has two languages. Some have three, and yeah, they have different needs. So yeah,
you have to be flexible because otherwise, what is this all for? What is the purpose of our mission? Well, the mission is to build every child's level of literacy in all of their languages to the highest level possible.
yeah,
That's really, it is as simple as that. And we do our best within the resources and the time and financing as well that we have to offer that. So it's always a dilemma, but we just try to find the best possible fit, not for now, but more for the future. So we sometimes
okay,
have to guide our students, our teachers, and families to look a little bit ahead. What do they want to do? Where do they want to go? What is important to them? And then again, we look at the risks. What happens if we do this? What happens if we do that? And then we have a joint decision.
yeah, okay. And so I understand you've been working for 3 years in your school. And you said that the first term you're observing a lot. Then I'm not sure when you started to implement this new curriculum or when it was designed, but you also mentioned that there were some things that worked, some didn't work. I was wondering what kind of feedback you got from teachers, but also maybe students and parents. I don't know if you got feedback from them.
The feedback we get, some of it is direct, some of it is maybe more subtle. So
Yeah,
if I start with teachers, because that's the easiest feedback to acquire, of course, as we work
yeah,
as a team. Um, in general, the feedback was whatever realignment is done, whatever reworking is done of the curriculum, um, teachers did not want to be put in a position where they would have to rewrite the entire thing from scratch in one year.
yeah,
Because, really, I have to be honest, when I joined the school, what I'm doing is when I joined is I inherited 50 years of experience. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what it is. And I think it's very important for anyone who joins is to listen to
yeah,
that experience and to appreciate it.
yeah,
So sometimes you have to meet people halfway because there might be a different priority, which is maybe very important. So for us, raising literacy was obviously the biggest priority, and we felt that we had to increase the rate of progression, the level of depth of exploration, and we had to move away from some things which maybe didn't work anymore. Maybe they did
yeah,
work, for the past few years, but as our students changed, the profile of the general population can also change in and out. So for a few years, you might have families who are extremely proficient in that language.
yeah.
Later on down the line, the families in that language group might have not actually lived in that home country, but have moved around. So
Ah, yeah,
the curriculum has to adapt. But really, the biggest feedback from the staff was, please don't make us change everything all at once because it might need to change again.
yeah,
And we took that on board. And what we did is we we created a framework. we don't want to mandate you as staff must do this, because that really stifles all creativity.
Yeah.
So we have a framework. Some things everyone needs to do. For example, all assessments need to be done at this time in this way. These skills need to be done in this order. At other times, we suggest a text type, but of course, it's totally down to you as the expert to go and find
Mm,
what you're interested in.
yeah.
So we're happy that we found that balance. From students, actually, we got some very nice feedback from this was last year, from our, um, what do you call them, language leaders.
Yeah.
They actually said they've noticed, they didn't really understand what had happened because, of course, we're not going and explaining to them the curricular changes behind the scenes, but they noticed that there was a better flow. They felt there was a better flow in their learning. And one of the girls actually said, you know what? I applied that in English. And I'm like, yes, that was exactly what the intention was. And it just happened naturally. Sometimes
Yeah.
you can't plan that precisely for that transfer to occur, but we noticed that. And parents, each community is different.
That's true. Yeah.
Um, and within the language, you have different communities.
Yeah.
So really, we have we call it the World of Cafes, which is a forum. We've started doing these meetings with parents by language group just to get into the nitty-gritty of each language and to better understand the cultural differences there. So really, we've only just started this new curriculum change, but we will be collecting feedback from parents over this coming year.
Okay, but I guess it's quite encouraging from what you hear as feedback already.
Yes, and we won't really know how successful this is until our students go through to diploma.
That's true. Yeah.
You have that kind of, I don't want to say finality. For us, it's a finality where we can see how fast that progresses.
Yeah. Okay. And so we talked about two main things you're doing to value your students' home languages and to make the most of them. But is there anything else you do that you find important to mention? So whether it's for your students how to say, at an emotional level or anything else you do as a school that you make an effort to do?
So the first thing I'd like to mention is, of course, a lot of the focus of what we do at ISL is the home language program, which is, of course, a significant, unique thing about us. But of course, we have the MFL languages, so the language.
Yeah.
So we've really been building those up as well, because it's the whole linguistic repertoire. We want students to also be learning a new language whilst they're developing their existing languages. So we recently opened Japanese that as a second language.
Okay.
That's a really big deal. Not many schools in the UK offer that at all. I believe there's maybe 5 or 6.
Okay.
And that helps with learners of that language meeting speakers, native speakers of that language within the
Mm,
school and collaborating.
yeah.
That's another way of encouraging that multiculturalism, multilingualism, and translanguaging as they're learning from each other. We also have had a few collaborations where we have been reworking that curriculum to make it much more immersive. And we've spoken about this at length, Yoshito, where we want the focus to be on students interacting with one another rather than it being a constant exchange teacher-student. So we've had a collaboration with many practitioners in that area. And let's not forget our English courses. Those courses are vital in making our ELL students, so we call them English language learners, not English as an additional language. It's all about the learning journey.
Yeah.
We've refined those courses. We now actually have a total of 6 English courses, 4 of which are available for English language learners. And all of that, the courses are great, but what's the point of speaking of learning these languages if you can't demonstrate your knowledge of them and your love of the culture? So we have within the calendar, we have I don't know, about 10 different events throughout the
Yeah.
year. So we've
Okay.
got, of course, our Japanese Cherry Blossom event. We've got a World of Languages Week, which is in February. Our exhibitions, our grade fives, our grade sixes, and our grade tens have to do an exhibition at the end of the year. Currently in grade five, there's a very strong languages element there. Whether they're learning a language as acquisition or whether they have a mother tongue that they're learning, a home language, that is incorporated into their learning. So it's just about showcasing their knowledge and also showcasing the community, because it's all one
Yeah.
thing, bringing it together.
Okay. That's great. So this event is for both schools and so teachers and families. And we talked a lot about what you do in school, but you also support, like you said, you support the families. But um, is there anything you give as advice for parents to support their children's multilingual, multicultural, and multiliterate lives outside school?
You know, where do I start my advice? I think the first point, and I suspect I'm not the first one to say this, is please, please, please do not neglect your home language.
Yeah,
So a common question that we get from parents is, should I speak to my child in English at home?
yeah,
The answer is a firm and absolute no. No. If English is not your first language, please don't speak to your child at home in English. Because now that you are abroad in the UK, the home is the sanctuary for your home language.
yeah,
And as native speakers of that language, as parents, you have a very important role, together with our home language teachers, of course, but we can't do it on our own. The parents, this is the opportunity for the parents to reinforce the learning. The English will come naturally just from living within the UK and from the courses that we provide at school and exposure to media and everything else. So that is the number one thing. Now, for situations where parents might speak a different language, so for example, if one parent speaks, I don't know, Italian and the other speaks whatever, Spanish, you have to decide on what process you're going to use to, if you want your child, because you should want your child to learn both of those languages. You need to decide as a parent what process you're going to use to make sure that there's just clarity of routine and clarity of process. So, you know, there's different ways of approaching it. You've got, my favorite, I would say, is one parent, one language. It's quite a common strategy used by many parents, but there's different ones. And
yeah,
it's a question of researching and deciding what works for you. For sometimes it's a situational thing, sometimes it's based on routine, and sometimes it's based on the person speaking that language. It's just important
mm,
that I'm not saying one is better than another because I have no
yeah,
proof, no evidence. I don't have the research to hand, but it's important that it suits you as a family.
yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I guess it's a nice way to wrap up this interview. It's your school is really inspirational, and I'm really glad you came here to share this with us and to show us how you help each language help each other. Um, and yeah, so thank you very much for your time and being here and sharing everything with us. So just in about half an hour, we're going to have our last interview of the day. It's going to be with Miriam de Oliveira, who is a teacher at the International School of Breda in the Netherlands, and Dr. Campbell, who is the co-founder of the Language Friendly School, which is an organization that helps schools value their students' languages and cultures. So if anyone is interested, you're welcome to join us live or to catch up, because I know there are loads of interviews at the same time on the same day. So yeah, feel free to join us live or to catch up. Thank you very much again, Zach. It was really interesting to learn more about your school.
No, thank you very much, Yoshito, for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.